I wonder if there's anything I can put on this counter to signify what I'm talking about today. There we go. So a few weeks back, I got to play this little game called Rage 2, which you might remember placed on my top 10 most anticipated games video. Which number was it? I don't know, you're just gonna have to watch it to find out, and it's totally not because I forgot where I placed it. But either way, I was pretty excited to play this game for that reason, and because I just love its software. They really did a great job with Doom 2016, it's just one of my favorite games of all time, so playing this, I thought it would be a fun game to tide me over until the release of Doom Eternal. But anyway, the gameplay itself. I'm going to start with the positive, and then I'm going to go on to things I'm kind of worried about. This is, of course, a preview build, so everything wasn't there at the start. I had a few little hiccups there, but I'm not going to talk about the technical hiccups because chances are they're going to be gone by the time the game releases, but we know Bethesda. So the game is set long after the events of the first game, and they made sure to emphasize that you don't need to play the first game at all in order to jump into Rage 2, which is probably for the best because that game is pretty slow to say the least. Rage 2, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. The gunplay is exactly what you would expect from an id Software game, and it just feels good to play. I'll admit though, it doesn't feel as good as, say, an experience like Doom. Doom's gameplay just felt so fluid, and this game doesn't really have that much fluidity to it, but in that game's defense, that's because it is an open world first-person shooter where you take on objectives, side quests, and the main story, so it's kind of understandable why the main focus wasn't on gunplay, and there's also car combat in the middle of that. We didn't get a chance to play the car combat, interestingly enough. We only had time to do one race, and that race didn't have any like death race sort of weapons or anything really. Basically, the demo was about you playing as this person named Walker, who you can choose as either a male or female, but in this demo he was male. Walker is this dude called a ranger, which there aren't many rangers left on this post-apocalyptic world, and that means you are basically gifted with some special awesome abilities. You can telekinetic blast people, you can throw a grenade that's also a black hole, you can jump way high in the sky and do a little Hulk smash. It's kind of cool. And the reason why I was saying that the shooting isn't as fluid as something in Doom, that's because Doom's main focus was weapons and very little to do on power. But you know, in Rage 2, you get powers in this case. And before we started playing the game, the studio director Tim Willits advised us that we can do all kinds of crazy combos with all these weapons at our disposal. Granted, I've only unlocked maybe 4 or 5 weapons in the actual demo, the last one being the kick-ass rocket launcher, and it's as fun as it sounds. It really is. But yeah, you'll get to do all kinds of combos, and the creativity comes from combining all your powers and your guns and creating something stylish in the process. I'll admit though, I was not really good at that to begin with. I was still trying to learn the controls, so I didn't really get a grasp of the combinations and stuff. I was mostly just telekinetic blasting people, black holing them, and shooting them in the face with an assault rifle or shotgun. You know, gotta love them shotguns. This is an id Software game we're talking about. But at the same time, this feels more like a product of Avalanche Studios rather than id Software. Even though I'm sure this was an equal collaborative effort in both studios, this does feel more like an Avalanche Studios game more than an id game. And that's mainly because I got a lot of Mad Max vibes from this game. And I'm not talking about in the way it's styled, like a post-apocalyptic shooter where you're doing car combat and stuff. I mean, that's clearly what Rage has been based on before, was Mad Max, but even then, getting the studio who made the Mad Max video game, things start to show their faces. Like, the graphical engine is the same, it's not running on id Tech, it's running on the Avalanche engine, the environments look very similar since it is a post-apocalyptic desert, and the cars control about the same. Which is fine, because I thought the car controls in Mad Max were pretty good. But at the same time, what worries me is that this game is gonna get very repetitive, akin to Mad Max. I liked the Mad Max game, it was fine, but it wasn't great. It was super repetitive, and I'm afraid that Rage 2 is going down a similar path. Like, obviously, combat-wise, it's way better than Mad Max is. I mean, sure, apples and oranges, one's a third-person action game with Arkham-style combat, and the other's a first-person shooter with some telekinetic and superpowered stuff, yeah. But at the same time, I'm afraid it's going to fall under the trap of repetition, because after I completed the main mission that they asked me to do, I was given more of an opportunity to explore the world. It's the vast open world with lots of emblems that they unlocked for me. It looked pretty overwhelming, but that's just because they unlocked everything all at once for me. And it led me to some different things, like there are these capsules which hold weapons like the rocket launcher, so those will be good places to visit first. But there are, of course, enemy outposts. Yes, that's right. There are so many enemy outposts in this game, kind of like Mad Max, kind of like every other open world game ever. So that's what concerns me, of course, is its repetition on that front. There's a skill tree in this game that they didn't really show us, and there is still the car combat, which I have yet to explore. Other than that, though, the preview was pretty solid. Rage 2 looks like a very promising game, and at the very least, it is going to be better than Rage 1. But what really concerns me is that repetition that I was talking about. And granted, I only got to play an hour and a half of this game. Playing games at preview events are much different than playing games in your actual home from start to finish. So I'm still going to give this game the benefit of the doubt. It doesn't look like a bad game. I'm still pretty much excited for it. But there are still some things I want them to tweak. But those are just my opinions on Rage 2. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, be sure to visit nukethefridge.com, where I wrote an extensive opinion piece about the game featuring thoughts that I may not have talked about here. I also did a video with my buddy Alan, who also got to go to the event with me to try the game himself. We give our own thoughts and opinions about the game on Nuke the Fridge Gaming's YouTube channel, so feel free to check that out in a bit. But in the meantime, if you'd like to see more videos from me, be sure to click that subscribe button and that notification bell to know when I come out with another video like this one, or an episode of FWP. Yes, that's right, I'm not done with that series. I won't be done with it for a long time, but we gotta fill the gap somehow. So, thank you guys for watching. I'm Joey Ferris. We'll see you on the next ride.